Two different stories we're talking about today, starting with the future of Sonic remasters, because while we just got a lot of new gameplay footage and confirmation around the upcoming Sonic X Shadow Generations, we also now have some comments from the lead Sonic producer himself that suggests that everything is on the table when it comes to classic Sonic games if there is a fan following behind them, which could spell some good things for the potential of games like Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, and maybe even Sonic Heroes being thrown in there. Then story number two we're talking about has to do with some interesting moves that Nintendo is making for Nintendo Switch Online right now, specifically from a hiring perspective, with some major positions being listed, and it does spell good things as we are leading in closer to the launch of Nintendo's next-gen hardware. And I want to have a broad conversation of what kind of feature set we might see with Nintendo Switch Online 2.0 or whatever Nintendo relaunches this service as, that will no doubt be carrying forward to their next-gen hardware. So we'll get on the same page with all of that. Before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification to join Sunbro Nation if you're new here. And we have to first kick it off with the future of Sonic games, because I personally am going to be picking up Sonic X Shadow Generations day one. Now, there's plenty of people out there that don't prefer remakes and remasters as opposed to just getting brand new content. But Sega and their Sonic games history is an interesting one, because some of the games are definitely better than the others. I don't think anybody's really asking for a Sonic 06 remake or remaster anytime soon. But while we already know to expect Sonic X Shadow Generations to launch later this year, October 25th to be exact, there are now some interesting comments suggesting that we should maybe expect just about anything in Sonic's lineage to be on the table here for future remakes and remasters. As you can see, the following article posted up over on My Nintendo News, which reads, Sonic Team is open to more remasters that fans want. Now that Summer Game Fest Play Days is underway, it's time for attendees to play games available and for developers to participate in interviews. For example, Sonic Team head Takahashi Iizuka was interviewed by IGN earlier today to discuss Sonic X Shadow Generations. There was only a handful of questions asked, but one of them was in regards to the future of remasters for Sonic the Hedgehog games. Iizuka said that following the release of Sonic Colors Ultimate, we kind of wanted to think about what we could bring next as a remastered title. At that time, Sonic Generations was kind of what everyone was really excited about, what they really wanted, and what was really hungry for. That's why we chose to do Sonic Generations, and we added the Shadow Generations portion. However, that isn't all he had to say. Iizuka concluded by saying that depending on what people like out there, if there's a title that people like, we'll think about it for the next remaster. There was not a title specifically mentioned, but IGN's live crowd was very vocal about seeing Sonic Unleashed getting remastered next. So personally, I would like to see Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 remastered next, and I'm talking like a from the ground up type of experience. If you look at Sonic X Shadow Generations and the footage on that, yes, it looks a lot better than the original release, but it's also very much the same game, just kind of up-resed and some new textures and enhanced textures and things, but it's not drastically different. But what is nice about it is, of course, we have a whole portion of new content to expect with the Shadow portion that they are adding on with entirely new stages and new gameplay. That's cool, and that actually does make it justifiable to go purchase if you have, like, say, the Xbox 360 version and you just throw it into your Series X via backwards compatibility, and you can upscale it and get it pretty close to how it looks as far as Sonic X Shadow Generations compared to Sonic Generations the original. Now, Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 I feel like would need a lot more love and care to truly rework the visuals, the lighting, the textures, like everything. Do it as a remake, do those titles right, those timeless classics, and then what would be great is to see Sega release that and follow it up ultimately with Sonic Adventure 3 one day in the future, spinning off a brand new 3D Sonic game that I think fans would be ready for. And I would say that Sonic Heroes is the next title that I would hope is in the conversation, which we even had some rumors around that being a remastered title on the table that Sega was in discussion about, but not necessarily what we would see them pull the trigger on. So maybe we see Heroes next, maybe we see Adventure 1 and 2 next, maybe it's Sonic Unleashed next, but I do think that Sega is going to continue this approach of remastering old games and giving them to us on modern platforms. And as a Sonic fan, somebody who does like to pick up most all of the releases that drop, I will definitely be checking these out as we get more official news around them. Now, story number two we're talking about today has to do with Nintendo Switch Online, as mentioned, and specifically some hiring posts that have been spotted online. And this is very exciting to discuss the future of what NSO might look like on the next gen console, because we know we're going to be hearing about the next gen console at some point in this fiscal year, meaning before March of 2025. But I am very much expecting the news to actually drop later in the fall of 2024 as far as what Nintendo is going to be doing with their next gen console. Now, that said, we don't know much about NSO other than that slide that's infamous around Nintendo account and value-added services rolling forward to their next generation. Nintendo is not hitting the reset button this generation go around on their next gen transition of hardware like they have done in the past, but rather the same login that you log into your Nintendo account with today will absolutely work on the next gen console, and value added services, while it's kind of vague in its wording, is definitely tied to NSO. So we are not going to be hitting the reset button on our classic collection of games that we have for the Switch. Imagine if the Switch 2 came out and then they're like relaunching NES as the first console for the online library. That's not going to happen. We're going to get all of our NSO games transferred forward, and if anything, we're going to see new systems unveiled for the future of NSO, such as DS and 3DS being in the conversation one day if they can figure out the control scheme around that, maybe sell us a separate controller with a touchscreen on it in order to make that possible via docked play, and GameCube, and one day even Wii being perfect candidates to be included in the library of consoles that we see supported on Nintendo Switch Online. There is a long list of features that I would like to see on the next generation version of Nintendo Switch Online, so that's where these hiring posts come into play, and I would say can get you mildly hyped for Nintendo throwing some extra weight behind the focus of NSO as we talk about the next generation version of this service. And you can see the following article outlining the details on My Nintendo News once again, which reads, Nintendo is hiring for a number of new roles related to Nintendo Switch Online. It would appear as though Nintendo is committed to improving the Nintendo Switch Online experience, with a number of key roles being advertised in the Kyoto-based company's website. This is presumably due to the fact that Nintendo is preparing to launch its successor to the Switch next year, and they wanted to make their service on par with its competitors. The roles available include the following: Game Software Development Technical Coordinator, Front-End Engineer Nintendo Switch Online, Back-End Engineer Nintendo Switch Online, and Director/Planner for Nintendo Switch Online. And then you have the following tweet from Nikki, which reads, it's almost like they're launching a new console next year and want to invest more heavily in online since investors love subscriptions and guaranteed revenue. And that tweet sums it up perfectly in my opinion, because there's no doubt that Nintendo is very happy with guaranteed revenue coming in on a regular basis from the 30+ million Nintendo Switch Online subscribers that they have today on the Switch, 140 million consoles sold. So there's no doubt they want to go deeper into that percentage and get it more up towards the 50 million plus in terms of subscribers. And they now have a subscription service that already has multiple tiers to this day, and we might even see them add in a third tier in the future, which I'm hoping they don't do. But of course, if you look at the gaming subscription landscape, they like tiers of services, and it's not out of the realm of possibility that Nintendo would explore that option. As long as the value's there, I don't mind paying it. And as somebody who did enjoy the virtual console service back in the day, it's also one of those things where those are digital games you have to purchase one time anyway, and there's a lot of games that I play on NSO that I probably would not individually purchase. So I'm not opposed to this ongoing subscription strategy as long as we see them stick to a regular enough release cadence. But when it comes to features that are a part of NSO, there is a lot left to be desired, and it's what I'm hoping some of these online hirings will be responsible for overseeing and creating. Things like on-system party chat. Let's get rid of friend codes. Let's do usernames. Let's get a way more active community on Nintendo's ecosystem of consoles, where if you want to message a friend directly on the console via text, you can do that. If you want to voice chat with them in a party group setting or even one-on-one, you can do that as well. There have been some reports that suggest that the next-gen console might have a microphone of some sort built into the Joy-Con itself, which is something we see Sony do with PlayStation, and that does allow you to have voice chat just included out of the gate without having to buy any extra peripherals. It might not sound the best quality, but it's an option to have people chat. There might even be a camera feature involved in this next-gen console, although that's one I'm feeling more 50-50 about. But there's also a surprise mystery function button that we do know will be on the Joy-Con according to accessory manufacturers that have leaked that information, and that could be something like a mute or unmute button for the microphone within the Joy-Con. So I'm thinking voice chat is here this time around, and just an enhanced, overhauled version of how you connect with your friends with games, and better systems overall to invite friends to games, whether they're in that game or not, and you can just hop straight into it from the invite. I think they're going to overhaul a lot of stuff. I also think they're going to integrate it more with the Nintendo Switch Online app, but make that app make more sense. Like maybe it has the eShop baked into it on the Nintendo Switch Online app, and you can just remotely download things from a native phone app. I think that would be a great experience. Not to mention, while we're talking about the eShop, let's ditch whatever that web-based interface is that's so laggy on the Nintendo Switch. Like legitimately, the Wii U eShop store is superior in every way, shape, and form to the eShop we have today when it comes to fluidity and responsiveness. Like the eShop is laggy and borderline broken when it comes to trying to flip through things without just having to totally like stop and wait for the page to catch up to you. That should not be your experience when you're shopping for new new content on a Nintendo console. So I'm very hopeful we see that. And then I think there's a decent shot we finally see Nintendo actually launch some kind of achievement and trophy system, and whatever they call it, they'll probably call it something totally different than that, but it's the same thing where you have extra little objectives to do in a game to 100% them. And what will be interesting to see is if that's like Switch 2 and only Switch 2 games going forward, or if they maybe do some kind of update where Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom actually get those achievement lists loaded in via backwards compatibility. Like, we'll have to wait and see for all that stuff, but Nintendo hiring for Nintendo Switch Online, doubling down on the technology, is a good news story at the end of the day, in my opinion. And as a subscriber that will no doubt stay subscribed and transition into the next gen hardware, I am definitely ready to see a whole host of new features that aren't there today. And here's hoping everything is streamlined and ready to go for Nintendo Switch Online 2.0 or whatever it's called when it launches with the new hardware, day and date. So let me know in the comments down below how you feel about both the different stories we talked about today. What do you want to see next from Sonic Remasters in terms of the games they select to give to fans? And what do you think about these job postings for Nintendo Switch Online? And do you think Nintendo's really going to revamp and relaunch the service with a whole host of new features and maybe new consoles out of the gate? Or do you think it will be more of an underwhelming relaunch and it will largely be kind of the same service as what we're experiencing today with the Switch, but just on new console hardware? What do you personally hope we see the most in terms of new features when it comes to NSO 2.0? So thanks so much for watching the video today, everyone. Make sure you share all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below before you leave, regardless if we agree or disagree. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, turn your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.